Part 1. The Quiet Defeat of Modern Life. What if I told you that most people today are not really living, but quietly surrendering? Not because they lack talent, not because the world has conspired against them, but because they lack the one thing that matters most: mental strength. We scroll endlessly. We compare ourselves to strangers on screens. We envy what others seem to have. And then, after hours lost in distraction, we sit back and wonder, why do we feel stuck, weak, and lost? We chase comfort in every possible way, yet end up exhausted. We avoid pain at all costs, yet suffer daily. The truth is brutal. Comfort, the very thing we worship, is killing us softly. And struggle, the very thing we run from, carries the seed of real power. But here's the twist. This is not a modern discovery. The ancient Stoics knew this long before social media, smartphones, or self-help gurus ever existed. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That isn't just a nice quote to put on your Instagram bio. That's a weapon, a mindset, a way to stand unshaken while the world around you spins into chaos. Stoicism doesn't make life easier. It makes you unbreakable. It doesn't remove the storm. It teaches you how to walk through it without fear. And that's what this video is about. Not fluffy inspiration. Not cliches that sound nice but collapse under real pressure. No, we are going to dive deep into 8 brutal Stoic laws. Principles that will force you to level up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. These laws are drawn from the raw truth of Stoic philosophy. They were tested in the blood and dust of ancient Rome. And though centuries have passed, they remain painfully relevant today. But before we begin, I need you to do something for yourself, not for me. If you are serious about growing, don't treat this like background noise. Don't just sit back as if you're watching another random clip. This is not that. This is your wake-up call. So here's what I want. Like this video right now, not as a favor, but as your first act of commitment. Drop a comment when something hits you hard. Share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. And most importantly, do not skip ahead. Each law builds on the last. Even missing one could cost you clarity or courage when you need it most. Now let's begin. Law number 1. Embrace discomfort like a friend. We've been trained, from childhood, to run from pain. To avoid anything that feels hard, cold, unpleasant, or uncertain. But the Stoics taught the exact opposite. Run toward discomfort with eyes open. Think about your own life for a second. Your greatest moments of growth. Did they come when everything was easy, soft, and comfortable? Or did they arrive when life punched you in the face and gave you a choice? Rise or stay broken. Marcus Aurelius lived through wars, betrayals, and plagues. He led armies while dealing with illness and grief. Yet he remained calm, grounded, and firm. Why? Because he didn't run from discomfort. He welcomed it as a teacher. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That is not poetic fluff. That is law. Every obstacle becomes a sharpening stone for your will. Every delay tests your patience. Every rejection teaches resilience. Modern culture tells us, avoid pain. But Stoicism whispers back, train for it. That cold shower in the morning is not punishment, it's training. That difficult conversation you've been avoiding, that's the path. That gym session you dread when you're already tired, that's where your character is carved. The Stoics practiced what we call voluntary discomfort. Seneca would sleep on the floor, eat plain food, and wear old clothes, not because he hated himself, but because he wanted to be ready. He wanted to train his mind to be free from shock when life stripped comfort away. And here's the truth that few will tell you. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you who you are, and more importantly, who you are becoming. We avoid small pains today, only to suffer greater ones tomorrow. But if you lean in, if you willingly walk through fire, you'll notice something powerful. You stop fearing the fire. You stop fearing pain. And that is the beginning of freedom. From this moment, I want you to treat discomfort like a sparring partner. It may bruise you, but it's building you. Every day, choose one small discomfort and do it without debate. Take the cold shower. Sit with boredom. Have that deep talk. Face silence without needing to escape into noise. Remind yourself, this is how warriors are forged. Because the only way to become unstoppable is to stop running. Drop this affirmation in the comments to seal it into your mind. Discomfort is my training ground. Law number 2. Stop being owned by your emotions. How often do your emotions own you? Someone cuts you off in traffic, you explode. Plans change, you spiral into frustration. You feel tired, so you skip the gym, the work, the discipline. It's not just you. It's all of us. But here's the brutal truth. If you are ruled by your emotions, you are a slave to them. The Stoics believed this slavery was worse than chains on your wrists. Epictetus, once a slave himself, became one of the greatest Stoic teachers. He said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. They can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by them. Let that sink in. That person who cut you off in traffic, you handed them your peace. That breakup, you gave away your identity. That rude comment online, you surrendered your joy." But Stoicism doesn't ask you to suppress your emotions. It asks you to observe them, to understand them, to respond instead of react. The difference between a child and a Stoic is this. The child throws a tantrum. The Stoic sits in the storm and thinks. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, wrote in his private journal, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's the kind of power nobody teaches us about. The power to refuse to be shaken by what doesn't deserve your energy. And yes, it's brutal because it means you lose your excuses. You can't say, "He made me mad," or "She ruined my day." The truth is, it was your reaction and that was your choice. But here's the liberating part. If it's your choice, then you can choose again. You can feel anger without acting in anger. You can feel fear and still move forward. You can feel sadness without drowning in it. That's not denial. That's mastery. Next time you feel triggered, do this, pause. Don't act. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this feeling useful right now? Then respond with intention. This doesn't make you robotic. It makes you powerful. When you stop being owned by your emotions, something shifts. You become calm, steady, grounded. People notice. They see a strength in you that is rare in today's emotionally chaotic world. And that's when you become magnetic. That's when you become unstoppable. Because real growth begins the moment you stop being a puppet and start being the master. Part 2. Beyond fairness and into control. Law number 3. Stop expecting fairness. One of the fastest ways to suffer in life is to expect it to be fair. Think about how often we tell ourselves this story. I worked harder than them. I should have been chosen. I loved deeply, so they should have stayed. I did the right thing, so the reward should follow. And when reality doesn't line up, the rage creeps in. The disappointment. The sense of betrayal. This isn't fair. But here's the Stoic truth. Fairness is a myth we invented, not a rule of the universe. Marcus Aurelius himself, Emperor of Rome, wrote in his Meditations, "You can commit injustice by doing nothing." Even he, the most powerful man in the world, couldn't prevent injustice. He saw it every single day. Corruption, betrayal, manipulation. He didn't hide from it, and he didn't waste energy whining about it. Instead, he grounded himself in something stronger. The recognition that life is not about fairness. Life is about strength. The Stoics never expected life to treat them kindly. They expected loss, pain, betrayal, and change. And because they expected it, they were ready for it. And here's where most people collapse. They cling to fairness like it's oxygen. But fairness is fragile, and when it shatters, so does their spirit. Let's get brutally honest. When we cry, "This isn't fair," what we often mean is, "I don't like how this feels, and I don't want to deal with it." But here's the law. You don't grow by expecting fairness. You grow by facing reality. Look around you. Bad things happen to good people. Evil people sometimes rise. Effort doesn't always equal reward. That isn't negativity. It's life. Now here's the difference. The average person waits for fairness. They waste energy hoping the world will play nice. The Stoic stops waiting. They build their inner fortress so strong that no injustice can break them. This doesn't mean you become cold or heartless. It means you stop waiting for the world to give you what you think you deserve, and you start giving it to yourself regardless. Seneca once wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage, especially when life seems cruel, especially when fairness feels absent." So here's the Stoic move. Instead of complaining, use the pain as fuel. Build skills so sharp they can't be ignored. Love without clinging to outcomes. Face betrayal and still walk forward with dignity. This is radical responsibility, not because everything is your fault, but because everything is your move. You don't control how life hits you, but you control how you hit back. And that response, that grounded, calm, warrior-like response, that's what makes you unstoppable. Fairness is not promised, but freedom is earned one strong choice at a time. Law number 4. Focus on what you can control. Let go of the rest. The Stoics believed your true power lies in a very small circle, inside what is under your control. Everything outside of that circle, you let it go. Epictetus said it plainly. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Here's the trap that most people fall into. They try to control other people. They try to predict the future. They obsess over outcomes. And then they wonder why they feel powerless, anxious, and bitter. So let's break it down. What is actually under your control? Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your responses. That's it. Everything else. Opinions, gossip, chance, timing, outcomes, is outside your control. You cannot control the weather, but you can control how you prepare for it. You cannot control whether people like you, but you can control how you treat them. You cannot control the economy, but you can control what you learn, how you spend, and how you prepare. That shift in focus is everything. Because the moment you stop wasting energy on what's uncontrollable, you gain massive energy to dominate what is. Imagine being caught in a storm at sea. The non-Stoic screams at the sky, curses the wind, blames the waves. The Stoic doesn't waste a second. He grabs the wheel and navigates the ship. That's why he stays calm when others panic, focused when others complain, disciplined when others drift. It's not that the storm doesn't matter. It's that he decides where his attention goes. And here's a truth most people never grasp. 90% of what we stress over is completely outside our control. Think about your own life. How much energy have you wasted replaying what someone said, or obsessing about what might happen? And yet not one thought changed a thing. So here's a practice the Stoics lived by. Every time you feel stress rise up, pause and ask yourself one question. Is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, let it go. Simple? Yes. Easy? No. But powerful? Absolutely. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself again and again. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you start living this truth, something extraordinary happens. You stop being tossed around like driftwood by every wave of circumstance. You stand firm, anchored in yourself. You're not unshakable because you control everything. You're unshakable because you control yourself no matter what happens. And in a world full of noise, chaos, and constant uncertainty, that kind of presence, that kind of calm, it's rare. It's magnetic. It's unstoppable. Part 3. Training for hardship and mastering the process. Law number 5. Practice voluntary hardship to build unbreakable will. In a world where comfort is everywhere, warm beds, endless entertainment, food at your fingertips, discipline has become a superpower. The Stoics didn't wait for life to punch them. They didn't wait for tragedy, loss, or disaster to test them. They tested themselves first. Not out of self-hatred, but out of wisdom. Not to punish, but to prepare. Seneca, one of Rome's greatest Stoics, once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, "Is this the condition I feared?" This was voluntary hardship, a deliberate choice to step into discomfort so that when real hardship came, and it always does, they wouldn't be shocked. Now think about today. Most people will do anything to avoid discomfort. They eat the moment they're hungry. They scroll the moment they're bored. They retreat the moment something feels heavy or inconvenient. But what happens when life gets genuinely hard? They break. They panic. They collapse. Because if you never train in discomfort, discomfort will crush you when it arrives. The Stoic path is different. They practiced hunger, fatigue, rejection, and boredom. Not because they loved suffering, but because they wanted freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from weakness. Freedom from being owned by life's surprises. You don't build willpower by watching motivational clips. You don't build resilience by reading about it. You build it by choosing the hard thing on purpose. Voluntary hardship could look like this: fasting for a day to remind yourself you control your urges, taking a cold shower when your mind screams no, waking up early to train when your body begs for comfort, saying no to a luxury you can afford just to sharpen restraint, sitting in silence with no distractions to face your own mind. These choices may feel small, but stacked over weeks, months, and years, they create a mind that doesn't break under pressure. That's what makes you dangerous. Not cruelty, not toughness for its own sake, but adaptability. Because comfort doesn't make you stronger. Challenge does. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome during wars, betrayals, and plagues. Yet he wrote with calm and clarity. Why? Because hardship never surprised him. He expected it. He trained for it. And when hardship is expected, it loses its power to paralyze you. So instead of asking, "How can I make life easier?" ask, "How can I become stronger?" Practice hunger. Practice rejection. Practice being cold, tired, and uncomfortable, and staying focused through it all. Because one day, life will throw more at you than you think you can handle. And when that day comes, the average person breaks. But you rise. Law number 6. Detach from outcomes. Fall in love with the process. We live in a culture obsessed with results. Win the job. Close the deal. Get the followers. Earn the money. Secure the recognition. But Stoicism flips that script on its head. Detach from the outcome. Master the process. Why? Because the outcome is never guaranteed. But the process, that is always yours to own. Epictetus put it clearly: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. When you cling to results, you set yourself up for disappointment and fragility. Do you hit the gym for a week, don't see abs, and quit? Do you launch a project, it flops, and you feel worthless? Do you love someone deeply, they walk away, and you collapse? That's what happens when your sense of worth is tied to outcomes. But here's the Stoic shift. Fall in love with the work itself. Show up not for validation, but for mastery. Write not for likes, but to sharpen your mind. Train not just to win, but to strengthen your body. Build not for applause, but for the pride of building. Because here's the irony. When you let go of needing the outcome, you often achieve more. Why? Because you're not desperate. You're not paralyzed by fear of failure. You're not grasping for approval. You're steady, grounded, and focused. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." In other words, stop obsessing about what might happen. Just show up with courage and discipline today. And when you do this, when you detach from outcomes, you discover a new kind of strength. Because if you tie your worth to results, you become fragile. If you tie your worth to discipline, intention, and effort, you become unstoppable. Here's a mindset shift for you. Show up like the result is already done, and you're simply enjoying the craft. Whether you win or lose, you've already won, because you lived with intention. That is Stoic freedom. That is unshakable power. Part 4. Death, urgency, and the call to live fully. Law number 7. Embrace death as your teacher. Most people avoid thinking about death. They treat it like a distant rumor, something that happens to others, someday far away. But the Stoics faced death directly, because they knew it was the most powerful teacher life offers. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This isn't morbid. It's clarity. When you remember you will die, suddenly trivial things lose their grip. The argument that angered you? Gone. The petty jealousy? Pointless. The fear of embarrassment? Ridiculous. Death is not meant to paralyze you. It's meant to wake you up. Seneca wrote that it is not that life is short, but that we waste much of it. We chase distractions, dwell in fears, and imagine we have endless tomorrows. But tomorrows are not guaranteed. Look around. Every empire crumbled. Every king is dust. Every monument is eventually forgotten. Rome itself, the mighty Rome, fell into ruin. And yet, what remains? The choices made in the moment. The courage to act when it mattered. The wisdom captured in words that echo across centuries. When you embrace death, you stop living half alive. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You stop putting off what you know you're meant to do. The Stoics practiced memento mori, remember that you will die. Not to make life darker, but brighter. Because when you know time is limited, every hour burns with significance. That risk you're afraid to take? Death reminds you, what exactly are you waiting for? That apology you've delayed? Death whispers, say it before the chance is gone. That dream you've buried under excuses? Death demands, live it now or it will die with you. Death is not the enemy. Forgetting death is, because when you forget death, you also forget how to truly live. Law number 8. Live urgently and with purpose. So what happens when you remember death? You live differently. You live with urgency. Not panic. Not recklessness. But urgency, the deep understanding that life is not a rehearsal. That this moment is the only one you truly own. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You will give yourself endless trouble if you don't stop looking for what a good man is, and just be one." In other words, stop debating. Stop postponing. Stop preparing forever. Live it now. Too many people live as if they have two lives. They waste years in meaningless routines, waiting for the real life to begin. But there is no second life. This is it. Look at the ruins of civilizations. Look at the names carved into stone that no one remembers. All of it is proof. Time devours everything. So the question is, what will you do with the time you still have? Will you chase distractions? Will you waste it on anger, vanity, or fear? Or will you direct it toward purpose? Toward building, loving, creating, serving, and becoming? Urgency does not mean rushing. It means living with intention. It means cutting away the inessential. It means recognizing that every choice either pulls you toward the life you're meant to live, or wastes what little time remains. The Stoics didn't just think about virtue. They embodied it daily. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while writing meditations in the quiet hours of the night. Epictetus was a slave who turned chains into wisdom. Seneca advised emperors while reminding himself that wealth and power mean nothing compared to integrity. They lived urgently because they knew the clock was always ticking. And so must you, because one day, sooner than you think, you will stand at the edge of life, looking back. And the question will not be, did I avoid discomfort? Or did I play it safe? The question will be, did I live with courage, discipline, and purpose? The Stoic answer, the only answer worth giving, is yes. So embrace death, live urgently, strip away the trivial. Choose the path of meaning, not convenience. For time waits for no one, and every heartbeat is a step closer to the end. The choice is yours. Drift until the end arrives, or rise and live like a warrior of the mind. Part 5, Self-Mastery and the Art of Loving Fate. Law number 9. Master yourself, master the world. The Stoics understood a timeless truth. You cannot control the world, but you can control yourself. And when you master yourself, the world itself bends differently before you. Epictetus was born a slave. He had no control over his chains, his labor, or even his body. his master crippled him. But Epictetus discovered something his master could never touch. His mind. He taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Think about that. Freedom isn't about power, money, or status. It's not about controlling others. It's about mastering your own thoughts, impulses, and emotions. Why? Because the man who cannot govern himself will be governed by everything around him. The rude stranger ruins his day. The delay destroys his patience. The rejection shatters his self-worth. This is slavery in disguise, slavery to external events. But the man who has mastered himself cannot be shaken so easily. He sees insults as noise, obstacles as training, and setbacks as part of the game. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal from friends, endless wars, and even a plague that killed millions. Yet his writings radiate calm strength. Why? Because his kingdom was not just Rome, it was his mind. And that kingdom remained unbroken. Self-mastery is not repression. It's not bottling up your emotions. It's transforming them into power. Anger becomes discipline. Fear becomes vigilance. Desire becomes ambition. Pain becomes fuel. This is the Stoic alchemy, turning raw human impulses into weapons of strength. But mastery doesn't happen by accident. It's a daily practice. Do you train the body so it obeys the will? Do you train the mind so it does not wander into chaos? Do you train your spirit so it holds steady when storms arrive? Most people spend their lives trying to rule others, to dominate their environment. But the Stoics knew, if you cannot rule yourself, you will never rule anything. Self-mastery is not glamorous. It's quiet. It's the decision not to lash out when provoked. The restraint to stay steady when others lose control. The discipline to show up every day when no one is watching. And when you master yourself, when you no longer live as a servant to impulse, you discover the greatest power of all. You are unshakable. The storms may come, the world may burn, but your mind remains your fortress. That is what it means to master yourself. That is what it means to master the world. Law number 10. Amor fati, love your fate. There is one law that ties all Stoicism together, one phrase that captures its essence. Amor fati, love of fate. Not just accepting fate, not just enduring it, but loving it. Friedrich Nietzsche later revived the phrase, but the Stoics lived it centuries earlier. They didn't just tolerate the hardships of life. They embraced them as necessary, even beautiful. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire takes whatever you throw into it and makes it light and flame. That is amor fati, to take everything, joy and sorrow, triumph and tragedy, and make it fuel for your fire." Most people resist reality. They fight against what is. They cry, "Why me? Why now?" They live in bitterness, resenting the unfairness of life. But what good has that ever done? Resentment changes nothing. Rage does not alter reality. The Stoic answer is different. Say yes, not just to the good, but to all of it. The failure that humbles you, the betrayal that sharpens you, the illness that tests you, the loss that reshapes you. You don't have to celebrate suffering, but you can love the role it plays in shaping you. Because fate is not your enemy. Fate is your sculptor. Every setback is clay. Every hardship is chisel. Every scar is detail. Fate is carving you into the person you're meant to become. And when you love fate, when you welcome every event as necessary, you gain invincibility. Because nothing can happen to you. Everything happens for you. Amor fati is freedom from resistance, freedom from bitterness, freedom from the illusion that life should be other than it is. It is not passive. It is active love. It is rising every morning and saying, whatever today brings, joy or pain, gain or loss, I will embrace it fully. I will make it mine. I will turn it into strength. That is the Stoic warrior's oath. That is the mindset that makes you unstoppable. Part 6. Weaving the 10 laws into a single path. You've now walked through the 10 laws. Each one on its own is powerful. But together, they form something far greater. A way of life, a code of strength, a warrior's path for the modern age. The Stoics were not philosophers locked in libraries. They were soldiers, rulers, slaves, and citizens navigating chaos, betrayal, war, and death. Their wisdom was born not from theory, but from fire. And now, centuries later, their laws stand as a map for anyone willing to follow. Let's bring them together. Law 1. Control what you can, release what you cannot. The foundation. Your first line of defense against chaos. The world throws storms at you, but you choose whether you sink or stand. Law 2. Discipline your desires. Without mastery over your cravings, you become a puppet pulled by strings you cannot see. Desire enslaves, but discipline frees. Law 3. Turn trials into training. Pain is not punishment. It is preparation. Every obstacle sharpens your strength. Every setback shapes your soul. Law 4. Conquer anger before it conquers you. Anger is a fire that consumes its owner first. When you master anger, you master yourself, and when you master yourself, you master fate. Law 5. Stand like a rock amidst the storm. The world will rage, but you remain unmoved, calm, steady, grounded in principle when everyone else collapses into fear. Law 6. Choose virtue over vanity. The applause of the crowd fades, but character echoes for eternity. Vanity dies quickly, virtue never does. Law 7. Embrace death as your teacher. Memento mori. Remembering death gives birth to life. Every hour becomes sacred when you know it could be your last. Law 8. Live urgently and with purpose. No second life is coming. No secret someday exists. This is it. Live it fully. Live it deliberately. Live it now. Law 9. Master yourself. Master the world. The battlefield is not out there, it is within. When you rule yourself, you cannot be ruled. Law 10. Amor fati, love your fate. The final law, the crowning principle. Say yes to everything. Not only the victories, but the defeats. Not only the joys, but the sorrows. Fate is the fire and you are the flame. Put together, these are not separate rules. They are threads in a single tapestry. And that tapestry is you. Every day you are weaving these laws into your actions, your habits, your choices. Whether you realize it or not, you are always becoming something. The only question is, are you becoming strong or weak? Are you drifting or are you directing? The Roman warning. History shows us what happens when discipline collapses. Rome, the eternal city, was thought unbreakable. Its armies unmatched, its wealth beyond measure. But Rome did not fall to a stronger enemy. It fell from within. Discipline gave way to indulgence. A virtue gave way to vanity. Courage gave way to comfort. And slowly, brick by brick, the empire crumbled. The ruins of Rome are not just stones. They are warnings. They whisper across centuries. This is what happens when strength turns soft, when urgency fades, when men forget the laws that made them strong. The world today is no different. Comfort has made many weak. Distraction has stolen urgency. Vanity has replaced virtue. But the Stoic path remains. And for those who walk it, decline is not destiny. The modern crossroads. Right now, you stand where Rome once stood, at the crossroads between comfort and courage. One path is easy. It offers distraction, indulgence, and safety. But it also guarantees weakness, regret, and eventual ruin. The other path is hard. It demands sacrifice, discipline, and courage. But it is the path of strength, purpose, and unshakable freedom. Which path will you choose? The Stoics remind us, the choice is always yours. The laws are already in your hands. The only question is whether you will live them or let them die unused.